Welcome back. Fine. So before we are just discussing about the bean factory and what are the life cycle. Okay, what is how we can create the resource object and how we can get the bean. That's a few things what we have been discussed. Now we are going to discuss about the life cycle of a bean inside a bean factory. If I want to use, how do I use that? Okay, what is the each particular steps it is there that we are going to discuss now. So first, okay, there are some certain your phases which are there. Let us will talk about that. There are some around 9 phases which are talk about. So first phase, it is nothing but your instantiation phase, populate properties, set the bean name, set bean factory, pre-initialization, initialization bean, post-initialization bean ready for use, and destroy the bean. There are the 9 different phases which are there. You cannot get. Okay. So now let us will see that. Okay, there's 9 different phases what I am talking about. Let us will see. Set your web camera. From Vizag Uplands. From Vizag Uplands. Alright then. So let's see this. Okay, these are the 9 different life cycle steps which we need to know. Okay, that is instantiate, where in this particular step, in the instantiation, okay, of the bean factory, in these particular steps, the bean, it is going to be instantiated. Okay, the bean definition, which will be the container will instantiate the bean by taking the data from the XML configuration file. That is what exactly it will be done. Okay, in the case of your instantiation phase. Then populate properties phase. Okay, in the populate properties phase, what it will happen? In the populate properties phase, in these particular steps, the bean factory container will populate all the bean properties as specified in the XML configuration file using the dependency injection services also. So that is what your populate properties will do. And the next one, it is nothing but your set the bean name. This is the bean name we need to set. We have to set bean value. So in this step, the name of the bean is set in the bean factory. So set bean method we can use, by which we can set the bean. Method provided by the bean name aware interface, by which we can set the bean name also. This is also one step which we need to remember. And then we have something called as set bean factory is the next step. In this particular step, we'll talk about, is given the reference to the bean factory that will manage it, and this is done by using set bean factory is the method is there by which we can have, and this is also having in the bean factory aware interface is containing that. So this will contain the reference of the bean factory which is managing that. That it will be containing here. We have pre-initialization phase which is there. In a pre-initialization phase, in this particular step you will be perform the task that need to be accomplished before the bean is been initialized. So this is done by implementing the bean post processor interface we have to implement, and the post process before initialization method we need to call for that. Then we have to go for initialize the bean. To initialize the bean, so what is this particular step will do? You will be perform the type of initialization task before the bean is ready to be used. This will include opening a file, opening the network or database connection, allocating the memory. All that are the particular things which we can do in this initialization bean can be, we can do that in this particular step. Then we have something called as post-initialization phase. In the post-initialization phase, what we are going to do? This is the step post-initialization. So in this step, we will do, like it is need to be accomplished after the bean is been initialized. This is done by the bean post processor interface and defining its a post process after initialization method, which we'll be talking about. So that is about your post initialization process which we'll do. So in this step, okay, whatever the task which is accomplished need to be initialized, that we can do through this particular process. Bean ready for use. Okay, so this is the next process which we will talk about. Bean ready for use. At this point, the bean is ready for use by the application and it will remain in the bean factory until it is no longer required by the application. So that will be the bean ready for use. That is the step which is going to be used, and the application will remain in the bean factory. Then the next one, it is nothing but you destroy the bean. Okay, so destroy the bean. In the destroy the bean phase, the bean is destroyed and it is implemented by the disposable bean interface, and the destroy method will need to be called to destroy that particular bean also. So these are the 9 different steps which we need to be followed for implementing the bean. So the bean life cycle can be set with that. Now we'll see that, what is that, we are going to do. So this is what we are talking about, the bean factory. Then we are going to discuss about something called as application context. So you can use the bean factory container for creating a simple Spring enabled application. But application context is an advanced container that provides the several enterprise level functionalities, and some of which are providing the text messages, including internationalization of those messages, lower the file resources such as images and all if you want to do, and event of the beans which are registered to the listeners. All these are the things which we can be taken care by using this particular application context itself. Now, in addition, it will inherit all the capabilities of the bean inheritance, like creating the bean, associating them, and dispersing the bean for each request. That all the things also will be carried out by the application context also. So we have commonly used application context container are these 3, like class path XML application context. We have file system XML application context, and XML web application context are the 3 different type of your application context container which are available, and we can use this application context container and we can implement our programs also. We will see that how to use this particular application context container when we'll create a particular bean and we'll use that. And a simple, you have seen one code which I have, snippet of a code which we have seen to implement the bean factory. Similarly, if you want to use the application context implementation, if you want to see, then you can go for this. So here you can see application context, new of class path XML application context. Bean factory wise also we have seen. Now you can see that application context wise. As you know that there are 2 different type of your container which you are using. Either you can use the bean factory or we can use the application context also. If you want to use bean factory, you can go for that, or else we can go for your application context also. And here we need to pass that Spring config.xml file, or in our case it is application context.xml file which we can pass and we can implement that. And similarly we can get that is bean factory in case of your get bean method which we can use. But the major difference between a bean factory to the application context container, because these are the 2 different type of your container which you are using. In a bean factory, the container will load all the bean lazily. That means the bean will be created only when you call the get bean method. But whereas in the case of your application context, does not wait for the get bean method to be called. It will preload all that particular bean. So obviously, it will be startup will be faster. And life cycle of the bean inside the application context, it will be there. Step is performed immediately after the core, and you can run that particular life cycle of the bean also. So this is the same thing which you are implemented. So you have the 4th, 5th, it will be somewhat different. If you remember that we have instantiate populate property, set bean name, set bean factory, then we have something called as here set application context is the extra one which will be there. Then again pre-initialization, initialization bean, post-initialization bean ready for use, then destroy bean. These are again the same phases which are there, but extra one page which will be there, that is set application context, which is after set bean factory, which will be there. So that will be an extra life cycle page which will be coming in this application context container. When you are using, you will be using that. So that are the few things which we can talk about as part of our the life cycle and all which we have talking about, and the different type of your bean container what we have been discussed here. Now we'll have the different other things. That is all about your auto work feature and all, how to use that we are going to discuss also. Sharat, give me a minute. Fine then. So here we have been discussed about the bean. We have been discussed about the how the application context which will be used. That are the few things what we have been discussed about here. Now we'll be moving down to the feature. So let us will see that how we can go for the yes, this will reduce the execution time and all. Let us will see the second part, that is nothing but we are going to discuss about the auto wire features, about this bean and all we are going to discuss. Let us will see this. So we are going to discuss about the second phase, that is inject dependencies into the application object. Let us see that. You can see this. This is building web application using the Spring framework, and we are going to see in this particular session, that is inject the dependency into the application object, how we can do that. So in traditional J2E application object, either we create the dependent object or we used to go for lookup strategy to search the objects. That is either we are using the dependent objects or we use the JNDI feature by which we can look up the object and we can get the object from the remote location. So application is depend on the object, but Spring enabled application object does not, objects are not responsible for searching, creating other objects. Spring automatically gives the reference of the dependent object. The process of creating, managing association among the application objects or form of the core of the dependency injection is referred as a wiring. Please see, this is the feature. The process of creating and managing association among the application objects. It is formed, the core dependency injection is commonly referred as a wiring. So to inject the dependency into your application object, we need to configure them in a XML based configuration file. And this file, in this file you need to first give a definition for each bean for which the dependency has to be created. And bean wiring can be done by two ways. Either we can go for explicit wiring, or auto wiring feature also we can use, by which we can do the wiring. And wiring means it is nothing but we are specifying the association between the objects. So you can explicitly wire the beans by declaring their dependencies. While declaring the beans in the configuration file, you can also wire its properties. You can explicitly wire the bean properties using the setter injection, or through the constructor injection also we can set the file also. So how you will do that, that we will see. In case of your setter injection, if you are implementing, that means we are going to create a bean and we are going to set the values through the setter method. So we will be specifying, you can wire that particular bean properties by using the property element for the bean, within the bean tag. So this is what you are injecting simple values, referring other beans and all that we can do through this property element. So you could see that, injecting simple values through the property, you can see bean ID is maybe Kaka. This is football player. Now this is what he has used here. The property name football value is equal to Adidas. Bean is closed. One more bean he has created, that is Forlorn, and that is football player. The property name football value is equal to Nike. So this is, we say that injecting the simple values by using the property element, which is nothing but a setter injection type of your value, which you can be implemented here. So when you are creating the bean, you can be setting the values like this also. Football property of the bean class, correct. Football is a property of the bean class. Then referencing the other bean, you can also wire the bean of another application with the help of dependency injection. To wire the beans with each other, you have to specify the bean reference also. You can specify the bean reference property by using the reference attribute of the property element also. And reference attribute sets the specified property of the bean of another bean. If you want one bean to refer to the another bean, then we have to use the ref keyword. Initialization parameter values. Yes, we can set, that is correct. This is for initializing the values, and at the same time, if you want to refer to any other bean, that is also can be specified. You can see that, this bean, you can see that, there is Kaka bean, and there is a bean called as Forlorn bean. Now what we are doing, property name is boots, reference is equal to predator is your reference, which is nothing but we are going to refer to this particular predator bean. Similarly here also you can see that there is another bean, that is predator. That means Kaka bean and Forlorn bean, it is going to refer to the bean that is nothing but your predator bean. This kind of your reference also we can do. So a bean can have its own properties, a bean can have another bean also. That is also can be possible. So as a reference also, that is also can be possible in this XML value, you can be specified for that. You can say that, I'm playing with the Adidas football, I'm wearing Adidas Predator boots. I'm playing Nike football, but I'm wearing Adidas footwear. Because this is one bean, that is Kaka bean, but it is also referring to the predator bean. Again, I am using the Nike bean, but again at the same time I am also using the predator bean. So this is with the way how you can also implement. This is about your setter injection we have used, and by implementing the setter injection we are able to create a bean, and we are using that particular bean also in my XML based files which I am going to create also. So that is one simple thing which I have been specified also. Then we can also use the constructor injection also. Okay, so if you want to use the constructor injection in this wiring technique, okay, we will be using the own constructor and we can save that. So in this injection value, the bean property can be done with the help of constructor argument element declared within the bean element. So then, okay, we can specify that value. You can see that constructor argument value is equal to 7. We can be specifying that. That means now the value 7 which will be set to the constructor value. Similarly for len also we have, okay, the 7 value which we can be specified here. So this is to the constructor. If you want to pass the value to the constructor bean, that is, okay, to the football player, there is a constructor where you have specified the parameter. So to that parameter value which I am specifying also, that is also can be specified. So there are two things. Either you specify that through the setter injection values, or we can also implement through the constructor also. There are both ways we can also set the value also. We can have this is called your explicit wiring. That is explicit wiring cases. That means initialization which you are doing through the setter method and through the constructor method manually, which you are specifying that. In a case of your auto wiring feature, we are specifying, that is by default, which can be automatically does that. So how you will do that, that we will see. It will not have an execution time difference or nothing. Okay, but whereas one is explicit, one is, okay. If you have number of properties, you can have n number of properties. We will have number of properties tags which will come. A simple properties tag which is going to come. All right then. So Spring container itself will find the type or name of the property here. So this is the one, okay, which you can highlight here, because in a case of your auto wiring, will automatically find the type and it will match the property name bean. And this is done by setting auto wire property on each bean if you want to Spring to be auto wired. So auto wire, whether you want to the property should be taken. So whenever you are giving the auto wire property, you can give the value like by name, by type, constructor, or auto detect are the 4 different features which are been specified in the auto wire property also. Now auto wiring, when you are using now the bean, you can see bean ID is equal to kaka, okay, the class, property name football, property name boot, ref predator. This is nothing but, okay, what we have specified in explicit properties. But if we want to go for automatic properties also, you can see that, okay, kaka class auto wire by name, you can be specified by name. This is a property which we can be specified here. You need not to tell this reference is equal to predator or anything. So this is by default auto wire by name. So that is, it is going to be referred to the another, okay, value also that we can be specified here, auto wire features. We can give the by type, okay, property also we can be specify that. So this is by type. You can see that, okay, there is a bean ID, class name we have given bean ID, class auto wire we have specified by type we can give. That is also can be possible. So in auto wire, okay, we have these all the things by name, we have by type, we have constructor way or through the auto detect way. These are the 4 different features generally which are being provided by your, okay, auto wiring features also. You can have auto detect auto wiring also can be specified. Okay, so these are all the different type of your auto wiring features which are being provided. Now we'll see that, okay, a sample example we will be discussing in our Spring based application and how we can use this particular auto wiring feature that we are going to discuss now. So let me, okay, go for a sample example that, okay, how to implement an auto wiring feature. Web application will say Spring chapter It is 2. Okay, because dependency injections and auto wiring is the one feature which we are talking about. Glass-based server, glass-based 5 I am using. MVC framework which I am going to use. 4.0.1. Finish. You can see to this. So what I am going to do over here is, okay, I am going to implement the code that is for the auto wiring feature. And we know already that is we have anyway redirect.jsp page will be there. We'll have index.jsp page which will be there, and we'll have certain application context.xml file which will be available. That's the few things which are there. Now I want to implement the bean, and I want to go for how we can implement that. We'll see now. See here, I am using the AutoWire demo. To implement that, we need to create a Pojo class called a .java, where it will create a B class object with a dependency injection. You can see to this. This is what I am going to implement. I am going to create a class called as A, where I am creating an object of the B class. Then constructor of a class A I am going to create. Public B, get B is the name of the method. Set B is the name of the method, and by which we are going to create an auto wiring feature which we are going to be implemented on that. So here B object will automatically instantiated using the dependency injection service of the Spring framework. You can see that. So simple class A, B object we have created, but we are not creating any object. Automatically it will be gets created by the dependency injection services, and we can be implement that. So how I can use? So simply I can create a class A which is we'll create a package and we'll specify class A. So Java class A with the package called as com is the package which we are going to use. Then we can, let me copy paste this particular code. For B class, we will need to create also the B class. We'll see that, how we can create, because we'll create a B class where the B class object also will be there, and class A will contain the B class, and it is going to be auto-wired. That means the B class automatically will be initialized by using the by type or by name, anything we can specify to that. Now next, this is the first step which we need to create a demo in this. We need to create a Pojo class called as A, and one more class which I need to create, that is nothing but your class called as B. We need to create a class called as B also. So let us see that, what we need to create for that. In the class B, we have B is created and hello B, which is there. So let us see that. I'll add one more class called as B. Java class called as B, and in the package called as com only it is there. So finish. This is your class B I have created. This is just to show how your auto wiring actually works. And you have to consider that B are the bean. So this is, I am adding the code for the B class. So public class B public B system.out.println B is created. Public void print system.out.println hello B, which is there also. Now, okay, we have the print method and we can implement that. Now, once we have created class A and class B, which is gets created for you, okay, then what I need to do is, okay, I need to implement the application context.xml file, and in that application context.xml file, here I need to create the bean information and we have to auto wire. So coming to the, okay, provide the auto wire implementation configuration in the your application context.xml file. Here you could see. This is a simple information what we can keep, okay, in the your application context file. Say that, okay, bean ID is equal to which object? com.a auto wire by name. Okay, one more bean ID is equal to class com.b com.a auto wire by name. Will be specifying that. So that is a sample implementation about a bean code which I am writing. Where I am writing this bean code, you see, in the application context.xml file, I am writing that particular bean code. That's we need to know. Then after that, okay, what I need to do, okay, so I have written this particular code, com.b auto wire by name. So now here the bean ID B, this should be in the class A's B object name. So whatever the B we have created as the ID, in the class A also we should have the same name. Okay, if it will be different, then it will be give an error for you. By name means bean factory will identify the bean by name, correct? Okay, so that is what you are saying. Okay, so the by name it will be, okay, identify that particular object. That's what I've written also here. See. Here bean ID B, okay, this should be in the same, okay, in the class A of the B object name. Otherwise, okay, it will give an error. See that, okay, here also we have specified B. At the same time, in the class A also, I have created the object as a B only. So then only, okay, it will not give an error. Otherwise, it will give an error. Now coming to the redirect.jsp page where you have to go, and then, okay, we need to run that particular code. This particular code we need to run. So what I've done, you see, application context.xml file system application, and I have specified the path of that particular application context file. Then I'm getting the bean. Then, okay, display method can be called on that. This will be called in the redirect.jsp page, because I don't want, okay, in index.jsp to be executed. I can execute this in the within your redirect.jsp page itself. And application context, okay, here you need to import for this, okay, the whatever the classes which are required. There are all the different classes which are required for this, hence we need to import that particular classes. See that? And here we need to use a different path because we are using Now say C colon, where we have saved this. We have saved this particular file in JSF TTT. JSF-TTT, JSFHS-TTT, then Spring Chapter 2. So this is we need to remember. Spring Chapter 2, which is it is containing. Okay. All right. So now you can see that, okay, this is the code which I have written in the redirect.jsp page. Yes. Fine. So this is the code what I have written, application context, okay, then new of file system XML application context. And this is what the code I need to write, okay, the total path I need to be specified for the application context file. And then, okay, from that, okay, a bean which I'll get with the ID that is nothing but your A. We are getting a bean and then we are calling the display method. This is a sample code which we can just see for implementing the auto wire feature. Okay, so in the display method what we have written, you can see that, okay, in the display method b.print, that is system.out.println hello A, B, okay, that is b.print, that is nothing but your, in B print method, that is hello B, it will be print. Because I have written in system.out.println, so hence, okay, the output will be displayed where, okay, it will be displayed in the console prompt, it will be displayed for you in the Jsfhs console prompt. So that it will be there. A.display, it is calling A class method, and in the A class method we are calling B class method also. Alright, any questions? So let me show that particular file again. You go for the output, okay, you can go to the Jsfhs console. Here you could see that, okay, B is created, A is created, hello A, hello B. Like that is the information which will be stored in the system.out.println because I have written, hence it is showing that. If you want to call in a different way, then we can call also. That is also can be possible. Yeah, please tell. Pavitra. I'm not getting your voice. I'm not getting your voice.
Hello.
Yeah, now you can.
Sir, I just asked, first it is control is going to A class and from there it is going for B class. That I understood.
Like, yes, that is, you can see, no, that is, first we'll get the A class object, and when you call the display method, so the display method of the A class it will be called, and in the display method what it is calling, print method it is calling, and print method what it has given, system.out.println hello A. That's why, okay, hello A. Then, okay, b.print method. B.print method means, okay, it is going to the B class. In the B class, print method it will be called. And because B class instance, when it will be created, automatically the constructor will be gets created. So that time, okay, B is created, it will be done. And then when the print method will be called, hello B, it will be called.
Yeah.
But
if, sir, I want to change this one by, by type, what modification I need to do here?
Data type.
Now we have implemented this by name.
But by name, because, okay, I have specified the type, that is nothing but your that object name which I have given. That object name wise I have set this particular auto wiring feature. But I can do with a data type or auto detect wise or through the constructor wise also. So there are different.
How do I modify here, sir, by using data type?
You can specify.
Can you show that, sir, data type?
I'll check that. Okay, I'll also do that also. This is name wise I have just created. We can also do that also by name. Okay, by type also we can do. That is also possible. Okay, let me check that.
Yeah, okay.
So this is a sample example which I have given. Okay, that is for your auto wiring feature, how we are implementing. That's we have been discussed here. Okay, so sample feature which I have told, like how we can call by using by name feature. If I want to implement, how do I implement that we can see. So one of the syntax that I have shown you now. You can see that, okay, by type also we can do. In the case of your by type, when you are using, okay, so in that case what will happen is, bean ID kaka, class setter footballer, auto wire by type I set. That means what, okay, it will call the object of the predictor. So here reference it is nothing but your, so through the predictor, okay, name we are specifying, that is nothing but your goods, and through the type it will be gets called here. You can see that. You have boot 1 and boot 2. So this is referring to the boot 2. Okay, so that way we can be specified to this. By type it will be. And samely, okay, that is another your bean which will be there, okay, which can also be created through the, say, for learn, okay, by which, okay, it will call the name but by using the boot 1. That is what we can do. So these are all the different examples by which we can implement this. So here, application context. So what we have done is, okay, by name, okay, we have specified that. I have given that, okay, by name. Now let us, if you will see that, okay, if I'll change here the by name, if I let me, I have just changed that, okay, ID property B1 instead of B, I have said that, okay, it is B1. Let me go with that. Okay, whether it is executing or not, you can check. Just clear this particular output. Here. Now I want to call this. I've used the name, okay, but okay, by name I have specified that as a B1. You can say that, okay, this is giving an error because I have given the different name to that. Actual, okay, file, that is in the case of your A, I have a object called as B, which has not been referred here. So that's why we are getting an error over this. Okay, so internal server error, that is, it says that you have null pointer exception which is there. So that we can see here. This is the kind of examples, okay, which we can use, okay, to show that, okay, it is not going to work, okay, instead of if you are giving a different name kind of that. Fine. So that is one example what we have been done. So this is about your auto wiring feature, okay, and in auto wiring feature how to implement, that's we have been discussed here. Any questions from the auto wiring? If you want to create with a simple bean, if you want to create and you want to execute, that is also you can do. So if you want to create a bean, you can create a bean like this, maybe a simple bean you can also create, and then, okay, you can call that in your Spring application by using application context, then, okay, context.getBean, and you can call the display method and all. That is also can be possible. A simple bean you can create, then you can also implement your okay, auto wiring features also. We can create login bean. If I want to create, I need to create a login bean class, and okay, then we need to have the properties for that particular class. That is maybe a username and a password we can be specify, and then accordingly we have to okay initialize the values and all. This is will be come back when you will be integrating that all. Yeah, please tell.
Yes, sir. Go with the application context or take some.
Mute your mic properly.
Yeah, sir. Is it audible, sir? Hello?
Can you put the mic very near, because then I think I can hear you. Very near.
Hello?
Yeah, now it is okay.
Yes. Application context.xml.
Yeah, this is the application context.
You're telling by. Yeah. In that you're telling auto wire equal to by name, no, sir.
Yeah.
How it does know? It has to call only that bean.
Because
that
okay,
ID
in case
equal to B.
yes, it is going to call, because in this case I told also that okay, in case of your A, what is that? Okay, the object which is there, actual bean class. We have class B, whose okay B object we are creating, the reference we have created, but we have not instantiated this particular bean. So okay, for this only the dependency injection we need to create. Hence okay, it will think that okay, yes, I need to auto wire the B. Otherwise, explicitly, if I want to do, then reference we need to create. Refer is equal to B, we need to specify like this. But I need not to do that, because it will think automatically by name. So by name means, okay, here already a bean name called as B, and there is a bean already with that same name, it is there called as B. So that both, okay, it will represent, and then we can create an object of the B, and it will work. If there is a mismatch, it is there, then it will not work. Yes?
Okay. If I'm having C class, means in the same class I do have B as well as C, means it will work.
C, then OB, then you should have again one more here. What is that? Application context. So here you need to have, there is one more bean. The ID is equal to maybe C, the class. Okay, you will be specifying that is nothing but your com.C, you need to mention that, and already you should create here also class C, maybe C, you can create like that. Then
So
automatically for class C, there will be an object which will be created for you.
No, what I'm asking is it will call both, no? By
Both.
name you have given, so B is also there, C is also there.
Both okay, it will be calling. There is no problem.
Yeah.
Because by name, okay,
Yeah,
there are
okay.
two different objects are there.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Yes, sir.
It's not mandatory, but okay, if you want to do that, okay, you can do this. Okay, maybe otherwise, okay, from B you can call a C. That time auto wire B it has to be, because B is calling that time. because A is calling that. That's why in the application context I am writing AutoWire is equal to by name. But if B is calling the C, in that case I have to say, okay, in B AutoWire by name. So that time, okay, it will think that, okay, yes, okay, in B there is an object which need to be created, and is there any object is there or not? Okay, that kind of things. Fine. So these are all, okay, the different features about the AutoWire features which we are talking about. So we can implement this AutoWire feature, and you can write a sample, say your Spring-based framework, Spring program you can write, and we can implement also. So you can try out, okay, all the permutation combination type. Okay, you can try out different one, okay, about the bean. You can create a sample program also. You can create a bean, okay, that is a customer, and maybe display the customer details, something like that, and you try to call that particular bean also. That is also can be possible for you. You can create also, see, I have used the bean, but try to show, when you are showing, okay, do not show directly the AutoWire. First you create a bean, okay, display that particular bean, then you come to the AutoWire. Okay, because now I can show to you AutoWire directly, that is not be a problem. But when you are showing, okay, please show that, okay, normal bean. You take a bean called as customer, and you, okay, specify a method, simple method, you keep that, okay, customer details. Hello, this is a customer bean, something like that, okay, you can write. And come to the application, that is a JSP file, and you try to call that particular method. And then you, okay, do these all the things also. Okay, the AutoWire features and all. Okay, so that is the steps which we can follow. This kind of things which we can be implemented as part of your AutoWire features and all. So will you be able to do now the bean AutoWiring feature as a normal bean? Will you able to create now? If you want to print anything, something like, okay, in the display method, I want to print that in the redirect.jsp page to print that particular value. How you will print that then? If I want to print something, if the display method it will call, then I want to print something, then what you will do? Class A bean has been called, but okay, when it will be executing, now I want to print something in the JSP. If I want to do like that, I'm not asking anything new, okay, very simple one I asked. Yes, that is the best part. By returning the method value, you can return the value, and then, okay, you can print that in the JSP also. Okay, that is the best part. Yes, very nice. So this is, okay, what you can be implemented in the case of your, okay, simple bean or, okay, bean. You can do that, okay, with AutoWire features also. Try out these all the things, like explicit also you can do. A simple example you take, class A, class B, or explicit also you try to do. Implicit, that is through the AutoWire also you try to do, to call to the other bean, that is to the B bean. Then you can get to know more on this. Tell me now.
Hello.
Yeah, please tell.
So we have a bean class called A, and we have also bean class called B. And why we in normal Java programs we'll do like yes, here we are creating an instance BB, and since both are there in the same package, we can call it directly, right? Why we are auto wiring actually? I didn't understand this.
No,
Is it
if you are
like
saying
in this
that, okay,
current...
B object, if you are creating B, and you are saying that, okay, I'll create an object of that B object in the class structure, then we are executing that, right or not?
Yeah.
That case, what it will be?
Okay.
That case, what it will be? What you said is a tightly coupled
Yes.
architecture. So
Yes.
you are creating the B object where only A. That means A is now standard for B only. He cannot execute any other thing.
Yes. Yes.
He cannot execute
Yes,
any
sir.
other
Now
thing.
I
He
got
has to execute B only, compulsorily. No other way for him. But if you have used that class B, tomorrow I may create an inherited class of B. If I want to execute also, I can execute if that instance name it is B only.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can have the flexibility to develop. Okay, that is what it is the feature, right? Okay, we want to create a loose coupling architecture. We don't want to create the tight coupling architecture how we are doing, okay, traditionally. So that is why we are
Yeah,
not creating
okay.
the object of the new of B. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Want to create a form. You can initialize the value by using the property of the value. If you want to take, you can take that values, or you can write a method, okay, to initialize that values also. We'll say that, okay, we'll got to know, because once we can integrate the web layer, okay, so that is we will discuss. Alright then, so this is all about the features about the wiring feature which we are talking about in the case of your say bean, how we have implemented that we have been discussed also. So we are going to learn the next thing, that is nothing but the very, very important feature of the Spring, that is injecting dependency into the application objects also, how we can implement that we'll see, and then Spring MVC architecture, how, okay, we are going to do that also we are going to discuss. So exploring Spring MVC architecture. So this is what we are going to implement here. Let me start with that. Reading audio or video from Gurgaon sector 32. Fine. So let us see that, okay, exploring the Spring MVC, how we can implement, because as you know that in case of your Spring based application, this is I am moving to the third chapter. Okay, so as I have finished this dependency injection services, okay, in case of your Spring based framework, you can see that, okay, this is what we have been finished now. Okay, that is your chapter 2 has been finished, that is implementing the dependency injection services. Now we are moving down to the next one, okay, that is nothing but the chapter 4, okay, that is chapter 4 which we are discussing, that is called your chapter 3, chapter 3, integrating Spring with a web layer. If you want to implement, how do I implement that we are going to discuss now. Integrating Spring with a web layer. So how we can implement the Spring with a web layer, that is what we are going to see. So here we are going to discuss about how the MVC implementation which you want to do, and in that, okay, how the web layer which is we are going to implement. So that we are going to discuss about that. So let us see that, okay, how to integrate a Spring with a web layer. Give me a minute. Okay. So in this feature, we are going to discuss about explore the Spring MVC and handling the web request, how we can implement that we are going to discuss. So these are the two things in the chapter 3, that is integrating Spring with a web layer, how we can implement that we are going to discuss also. Let me start with that. So here you can see that several MVC web frameworks such as Struts, Wickets, and Tapestry can be used for creating the web applications also. So the Spring framework also has its own MVC implementation also, that is MVC framework. It is already been provided by the Spring framework also. And this framework has the following feature, that make it better than the other MVC frameworks also. Pluggable view technology and injection of services into controllers and integration support. These are the three things which we can talk about. Pluggable view technology, these are the features, is better than the other MVC framework. Maybe the Struts is also there, we have Wicket is there, we have Tapestry is there, we have Jsfhs is also, we can implement the MVC based architecture. So there, from that, the MVC can be better because of these are some of the few services which can be automatically taken care, like pluggable view technology. We have injection of services into the controllers, and integration supports are there. These are the different features which are supported by the Spring. See to this. These are the features. MVC, Spring MVC will support integration with other frameworks such as Struts, Hibernate. Spring MVC, various view technologies, that is JSP, Tiles, Jsfs, and Velocity also will be supported. Spring MVC also incorporate the benefit of Spring framework such as dependency injections, and AOP also will be supported. That is what your integration support is also there. So these are all the different type of your support which are available in case of your Spring MVC framework. The core idea of MVC pattern is used to separate the business logic from the UI, allow them to change independently without affecting each other. The three components generally which we know that MVC has, that is nothing but your model, view, and controller architecture which is there. And Spring MVC framework is a robust, flexible, well-designed framework. Takes the advantages of the AOP as well as the dependency injection features also which has been given, by which we can runtime, we can create an object of a class, and it is built around the front controller servlet called as dispatcher servlet, and dispatcher servlet is the first servlet which will be gets executed, as you know. And the Spring MVC framework make use of the following components: mapping, controller, view resolver, and view. If you see that these are all the component where we have seen. Just now in the Spring also we have discussed that these particular things which will be there in my Spring. Where we have seen that? Any guess? I have shown you these 4 components also. As a tag I have shown you. In which particular XML file we have seen this? Quickly, I want everyone to respond. Can I get the quick response? No, it is not the application context file, because in application context file, context.xml file will contain the bean information. Okay, so bean ID, normal bean, whatever we have created. But however, if you want to see this particular mapping, controller, view resolver and all, you can go for dispatcher servlet.xml file, which you need to go through, where okay, you can see that okay, the file names and all. So it is the dispatcher servlet.xml file which will contain this information. So handler mapping, controller and view resolver also. So Spring okay, has the different type of your features which are being provided, easy to test, okay, then reusable application code, simple and pluggable tags which are being provided, multiple view technologies, and it has been given by using the web framework, lightweight development environment which is there. So these are the some of the benefits of your Spring MVC framework which when you are using also. These are the few things which we can talk about. Now see to this. Now life cycle of a web request. How we can take care, okay, in a MVC based application when you are using, how that okay life cycle of a web request goes, okay, that we are going to discuss now. So when the user clicks a hyperlink or a button on a web page, a request is generated. Okay, so this request carries information about the URL of the requested page. The web.xml file of the web application contains the information about how to handle a particular web request that it will be containing. So if you see that okay in your web.xml file, it will contain the information, and this is the first file which has to be executed. That is nothing but your first time if it is executing the redirect.jsp page which will be loaded. Other than that, okay, that is you know that okay any kind of your request, if it is .htm type of your request, if it is coming, then okay automatically it will be redirected to the dispatcher servlet also, and in the dispatcher servlet okay it will take care about to which particular view page it has to go for. So therefore when the server receives a request, reads the web.xml of the web application, forward that request to the dispatcher servlet assigned to handle that particular request actually. So this is what okay, so first okay the request goes to the dispatcher servlet, and you can see that okay there is second okay it is going to the handler mapping. Handler mapping, you can think about where this handler mapping will be there. Where this handler mapping will be there, can anyone tell? I want everyone to respond. Dispatcher servlet, which is nothing but the element of the web.xml file, and this from this okay it will go to the handler mapping file. Handler mapping file handler mapping file tag, which will be the part of your dispatcher servlet.xml file, because dispatcher servlet it is going to use the dispatcher servlet.xml file, and then okay that tags which will get. Very good. Dispatcher servlet have a bean tag with URL mapping, you are correct. So then okay this dispatcher, this handler mapping which will be getting that, and once we'll get that mapping it will go to the appropriate controller. If you see that okay in URL mapping the property key is equal to index.htm, then it is given index controller, it will be written, so that it will go to the appropriate controller. That is what the third step which is it is showing. And in this controller, if you have any kind of your model component to be executed in the controller component, you can execute that model component also, and you have to return a particular view, and then the view resolver okay will specify which particular view it has to be executed, and the appropriate view will be gets executed by the view. This is what the way how the execution it is going to be in our Spring based applications and all. Any questions there? I want everyone to respond. Okay. So now this is all about the life cycle, how it goes in a web, okay, that we have been discussed now. Now we have the next, which we see, to enable the server to handle the web request, create and configure the dispatcher servlet, create a controller class that perform the business logic for the request page, then configure the controller with dispatcher servlet context configuration file, declare a view resolver to view, okay, to tie the controller with a view, and create a view, render that, okay, requested page to the user. So this is the way how the server will handle the web request in a Spring enabled applications also. And when a user request for a particular page is requested received by the front controller of the server, and in our front controller servlet, it will be taken care by the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet class is integrated with your application context interface, and this integration allow you to the major features such as DI, dependency injection services, AOP, and the Spring framework can be implemented on that. So this is, okay, the dispatcher servlet is integrated with your application context interface, and it will use the dispatcher servlet.xml file also it will take it. And then, okay, it will try to call the indexer, okay, controller, and the actual view resolver which has to be executed also it will tell you. At the same time, it will also, okay, take care about the dependency injection services, and the AOP also will be taken care of here. The dispatcher servlet intercept all the requests. For the dispatcher servlet, you will have two things, which will be servlet and servlet mapping file, which will be there, where you can specify the servlet, which servlet it to be executed. And when the mapping cases, it will tell that, okay, which request, when it will come, the particular servlet will be gets executed. And this is a sample execution code which has been given, servlet code, the dispatcher servlet which has to be executed. Okay, now the 8 ticket reservation you can tick. When you click on the book button, when you click, another request is generated. The request is now processed by the system. So then, okay, automatically, okay, it will be executed. This is the calling support. This is what your, okay, .htm, whenever it will .htm, automatically ticket dispatcher will be executed, and here dispatcher servlet will be gets executed. There's a few things about your, okay, web integration layer with your, when we are talking about web integration layer with this, that we have been discussed. Any questions here? What is the life cycle of web integration layer? Yes. This is the life cycle which we have said. Okay, now we'll be moving down to the next part. Okay, this is, we are going to discuss about okay, the web request, how we can take that, we'll see now. It is exact same as the Spring life cycle.
Hello.
Yeah, please tell.
So morning we discussed life cycle, like first it
Okay.
will go to the web.xml and then redirect .jsp and
No.
then for other things. So the cycle is same as that. So you are telling this is like web, integrating
No.
the web requests and things.
No. Only thing is that, okay, that time I have not used the word web. Now it is, I am using the word called as web. But otherwise, I have told the same thing only. That, okay, how exactly we are redirecting in a case of your Spring, and how the view resolver it is happening. The same thing what we have been discussed also. Okay, only thing that, okay.
Okay, there is no difference between those.
No difference first of all. The both are same. Only thing that time I need, because anyway I have created that application. That's why I have told you also that
Okay.
particular feature. It is not that time. We have not discussed
Oh.
actually. No? As for a chapter, it is not there. In the third chapter, it is there. Okay.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Because you can understand, so that okay, I have given that okay all the idea that time.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
All right. Now we'll be moving down to the next part. Okay, that is in this session you will learn to handle the web request also. How to handle the web request. We have to learn the controllers here. Okay, so the dispatcher servlet delegates the request to another Spring MVC component known as controller. Index controller, if you remember, okay, we are going for that. Web request goes to the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet will go to the URL mapping. Mapping goes to the controller. Controller goes to a service class. So the controller is responsible for processing all the requests coming from the web browser and generating the desired response. And the response page is requested by the user, whatever. And this is a sample code, the diagram which shows that okay how exactly the pages which will be requested. Okay, that it has been given over here. The Spring MVC framework provides a controller hierarchy, which is wide selection of the controllers. Spring group these controllers into the various categories, and categorize enables you to decide which controller you want to use appropriately. For view, okay, we have parameterizable view controller. For simple controller, we can go for abstract controller, throwaway controller, and multi-action controller. And we can go for your command controller. We have simple form controller, and we have abstract wizard form controller also. So these are all the different kind of your controller categories which are being available, and accordingly there is the classes which are there. And we can use these particular controller classes, and we can create our own controller depending on the type of your users. Okay, give me a minute. Fine then. So coming back to the point, okay, that is the different type of your controllers which we are talking about, like view. For simple throwaway controllers, we have multi-action controller. All these are the different type of your controllers are there. And each type of the controller, they have the different uses, and we can use the controller accordingly. Now, view controller, this type of your controller is used when no processing of the data is required, only static view it is needed. Then we can go for this type of your controller. Similarly, a simple controller is useful when you are using the control very simple, has to be only provide a response from the request parameter. Then I can go for your abstract controller also. Throwaway controller is useful when you want to handle the user request as a command. Then we can go for this throwaway controller. Please see to this, okay, this 8 different type of your controllers, which, 7 different type of your controllers which has been given. From this, okay, there is a type of question which will come from your examination. So we should be ready for that. And in Spring, most of the time in FSCT, Spring questions are based a bit tricky. The tricky why it is because okay, the XML portion he will ask you, nothing else. So he will ask you that, okay, the bean, that is the indexer line, there is a view resolver, then we have URL mapping, and we have auto wiring, okay, the by name, by type, these are all. So these all XML based mapping which is there, that things it will ask you. That is why, okay, it is a bit tricky there, because we do not remember normally that XML portion code we do not remember, hence it is bit tricky. Otherwise, okay, the questions are very easy, but only thing is that, okay, this particular XML based snippet code which is asking, so that will be the tricky. So we need to remember, okay, each and every XML based configuration for auto event wire or auto event by type, okay, how it will be the changes, and explicit event wiring if it is there, what is the XML based coding which will be there. That few information we need to remember, so that, okay, you can write easily the SFTP. And from this particular controller, there is one particular question which may be asked, like he may ask you that, okay, a category of controller which is useful when you want to display the data entry form to the user and process the data entered by the user. So which particular one? It is simple form controller, or abstract say command controller, or abstract wizard form controller, for which one? So that type of your questions which will be maybe asking in this. These are all the different type of your controllers which we are using. So how to use this particular controller? Let us will talk about that. Okay, how do we go for this controller? So let me talk about a sample snippet of code which has been given over here. Okay, that is controller here. You can see org.springframework.webservlet.mgrc simple form controller. So this is, and a class we have created, book controller extends simple form controller. Then I said that, okay, there is a service, because as I told you that, okay, when we have seen the diagram also, if you remember that particular diagram, there it has been given, like first it will have dispatcher servlet, from the dispatcher servlet it will go to the controller gives the request to the services. So here book controller is a controller and book service is a service which is going to be executed here. So that is the part which can be implemented as a controller type itself. Is that clear now? How a controller need to be created? And there is a book controller which you can initialize the values in the constructor, and there is a set book service is the method by which we can initialize the book service object also. Any questions here? The controller, how to create a controller class? Any questions? I want everyone, please respond. Have you understood how to create a simple controller class? It is a simple class by extending to the one of the controller class. That is maybe a simple controller, abstract controller, or maybe a form controller, okay, or maybe you can use throwaway controller. All these are the different type of your controller classes which are there. So from that particular controller class, one of the classes we need to extend, okay, to our own class. And then we need to create a service class object, and in that service class object which will make all the methods and all. So that is the part, okay, which is we talk about the controller. Now the controller, sorry, the controller class does not process the request on its own. It will delegate this request to a service class that performs the business logic. The business logic has been completed by the service class object. The controller sends the result back to the browser. So service class will act as a simple service class, as a model class it will work. And in this, okay, the business logic, whatever you want to execute, you can be executing on this particular service class. And we can execute this service, or we can call this particular service method from the controller, and controller in turn it will call to the browser also. So this is the way how the execution part it will be going around. The controller will forward the result back to the browser, and a model and a view object is returned, and this which is there in the org.spring framework.web.servlet.model and view class, which is it is containing. The model and view class encapsulate the model, view, and data to be displayed by the user by the view. So the response is a model and a view object that holds a view and the data to be rendered by the view also. So this is what we can be implemented as part of your creating a controller. Any questions? So this is a controller when we are talking about, and this is what the simple method I need to create. This method which is going to return me the model view object, which you can pass. This is the same method, in the model view object, add object method, and this object, it will call the book service say hello method, which is going to call, and this model object will contain the information about whatever the model object it is containing. So this model and view object will contain the information about the book service also, because book service will act as a simple, this will act as a simple method which is going to be implemented as a business logic. So the add object method populates the model with a message containing hello message. The object obtained from the book service class through its say hello method, and say hello method will return me some value which will be stored by the hello message. And model object is object which will be added to the model and view object, and model name is the name of the object to be added as the model and the view object. So this is a sample implementation of the code which is there for the controller to be implemented. And when you are using the controller, you can write bean name is equal to book controller, class parameterizable controller, and the view name is nothing but your book tickets. And similarly, bean class controller.book controller, which is there, and the service class reference, it is nothing but your book service. And book services, we need to specify a bean whose class is equal to book service. So that way you can define a bean and we can implement that. Fine, this is all about your what we talk about today, a simple controller. If I want to implement, how do I implement that controller in my program? That we have been discussed here. So just like we have created a sample controller, index controller, how we have created, as I told you that time only that we can also create our own controller. So we can create the controller that is book controller. In that, book service method. And this controller we have to specify in my dispatcher servlet.xml file, which will containing that particular information and all. Now, the web application may contain several controllers. The dispatcher solver need to locate appropriate controllers. To do this, URL handle mapping which will be there. And what are the classes for the URL handler mapping? See here, URL handler mapping, bean name URL handler mapping, simple URL handler mapping, controller class name URL handler mapping. So these are the three different type of your classes which are there and which are being represented from the handler mapping interface. All these are the classes which are implemented this handler mapping. And bean name URL handler mapping, which is one of the simplest way to handle the mapping from the application context file. And we have this is what we can talk about the bean URL handler mapping file. So you can write like this: bean ID, bean URL, bean handler mapping. Class is bean name URL handler mapping, and you can have multiple bean also can be specified here, and which controller which need to be called also you can be specified on that. Simple URL handler mapping, which is one of the most simple and straightforward handler mapping, where which is having the prop is the map controller to the URL pattern. If you see that the first thing which we have given, that is Spring chapter 1. You can say that bean class, this is what, and URL mapping, this is what we have done also. Simple URL handler mapping, and in the simple URL handler mapping you have something called as prop, is the key, where the property is the mapping map file which will be there, and which will contain the prop key and the associated controller which is there also, which will tell us here. So that's the part which we can do in the simple URL handler mapping, which we can talk about that. This is about your simple handler mapping in case of your XML file, dispatcher servlet.xml file, which will contain this particular information also. And this is the controller which we can use, bean ID, show controller, controller dot show controller, controller dot book controller, so controller dot create controller, control dot create account controller, like that. Okay, different type of your controllers which we can be specified here. Mapping handler we need to use, okay, that is depends that, okay, like whenever you click on the type of your extension, for whenever you'll give the request, what is the extension by which we are giving, and for that what is the controller it has to be executed. That mapping has to be done by the mapping handler. So that's what, okay, if you see that, okay, you have response.redirect page, we have given star.html, that is any index.html. Then it goes to the mapping file. In the mapping file, it says that, okay, go to the index controller. In the index controller, it has told that, okay, it will be index.jsp page, which has to be, okay, given to this particular page. So that's the same thing which are being implemented. So you have parameterizable view controller, it is there also in this case. If the user requests for a web page that is static, so you do not need to define a controller. For that page, we can use the parameterizable, okay, view controller, which we can be specified, and we can implement the parameterized construct, parameterized, okay, view controller also we can use. In ID, we have just a name we need to give. Any URL mapping name, it is just a name which we can use. Any name it can be. It doesn't matter. So bean ID, okay, view resolver, you can see that, okay, delete account.html. So the account, the controller is delete account controller. In that, okay, the view is show account. Now show account.jsp, which is going to be executed here. Then we have something called as class, okay, that is controller class name handler mapping is also there. This will map the controller to the URL pattern by quite similar to the class names, and controller class named URL mapping interface in application, the dispatcher servlet class maps the URL pattern. Now you can have the controller class name handler also, where you can specify the classes also, show account controller, create account, delete account controller, which we can specify. So that's a simple thing what we have been discussed about the controller says that. Now we need to discuss, that is rendering response to the client, how to do. That we are going to discuss after the break. So we'll take a break again. Okay, so for the lunch break, okay, tea break, lunch break then. Okay, so then we'll come back and we'll be discussing about the next part, that is nothing but other things about your web request, that is view resolver also, how to use. That we are going to discuss. And then, okay, we'll talk about AOP also. So these are the two things which are there, okay, in today's class, mostly web layer and AOP, which we'll see, and we'll be also discussing a demo about AOP also. So that is what the few things which are there. So we'll be discussing that. After the break, we are going to discuss about that few things also. So please, okay, take the lunch break, come back, and we'll be discussing that. And we'll take a demo of AOP also. Anything if you want to tell, you can. Any questions? All right. Any questions? Okay, so fine then. So we'll move for a break and we'll come back. Sir?